what's up, YouTube family? It is IK right here. Alright, man, I got a gaming video for y'all today. I think this is definitely worth a video to talk about. And, yeah, let's talk about it. So, I'm going to be giving my take on Mortal Kombat Armageddon, but on a particular question of, you know, this one particular character that a lot of people like to, trash, and people don't think he's that strong. People just think he's like a hyped up character, and that is Dagon, the son of Argus and Delia of the Edenian people. Taven, along with his brother Dagon, are both the sons of Argus and Delia. And for those of you that don't know, Taven, he's a very, very powerful character. I believe he is a demigod, if I'm not mistaken. To the point of which Argus and Delia, they do have godly, powers, but I think Taven, on his development, did not ever get like the quote-unquote full godhood. So I think maybe due to his genetics, he wasn't born to the level of him being ultra strong. But in terms of the Mortal Kombat Armageddon storyline, Taven got stronger as he started evolving his moves and understanding, who he was as a fighter. And, his character just ended up developing very, very well, leading to the very end of Armageddon. So the question that is to be posed is, at the very end of Armageddon, did Taven end up dying to the hands of Shao Kahn after Armageddon, or is Taven still alive in the Mortal Kombat universe? And my answer to that is yes. I truly do believe that Taven is alive, simply because one, we don't hear from Shao Kahn at the very end of the Mortal Kombat Armageddon ending, which was displayed at the very beginning of Mortal Kombat 9 of 2011 in the story mode, in which Shao Kahn never, told Raiden that, oh, me killing Taven made me stronger, and now I am able to kill you, and I can now rule all of Outworld and Earthrealm. And the weird thing about this is that Shao Kahn has never made any mention about Taven. If anything, Taven should have defeated Shao Kahn, because if you think about it, from the Armageddon intro cinematic, where Shao Kahn was being taken by Onaga, ideally you would have thought that Onaga would have killed him, because Shao Kahn is actually weaker than Onaga. Because the thing is that Onaga is, one, the Dragon King, and two, Onaga has insane fighting abilities, to the point in which, one, he collects souls, and he has, intense, abilities with his, Dragon's Breath. I mean, he's really, really powerful. A lot of people would compare him to Thanos from Marvel Comics, but just to be, more specific on Mortal Kombat lore, Onaga, he's a very, very powerful, character. He has insane movesets with using mind control from the dead and controlling people. Basically, he has Quan Chi's sorcery type, abilities to bring people back from the dead, and he could also take your moves and copy them off of you. So I think Onaga is a very, very powerful character, and I wouldn't be surprised with the amount of knowledge that Onaga has carried over thousands of years of combat, and him being that strong. It would make me think from a logical point of view that Onaga should defeat Shao Kahn easily, but apparently when Taven defeated Blaze at the very end of the Armageddon storyline, Taven, he managed to get this aura from Blaze. And what happens is that when you defeat Blaze, you're supposed to become a super duper, massively buff character, where you have all the power in the world to do whatever you want, which means is that you're basically saturated with a lot of, super abilities. Basically, it's a mega power amp for you to be ultra powerful. So like you basically have like pure, destructive abilities to go above and beyond, to which, you can do whatever you want to do. So in terms of that logic being explained, Taven ended up becoming extremely powerful at the event of defeating Blaze. But at the end of his ending, he said that after defeating Blaze, the aura of his energy ended up spreading to all the other combatants at the time of Armageddon. So the armor that he had ended up making everybody stronger at the time of Armageddon, of the war being, being started. So that theory can easily be explained of why Shao Kahn ended up becoming powerful when he made it back to Armageddon, in which, if anything, he probably ended up killing Onaga easily, because he was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually very, very powerful. But the question can still be thrown back at Onaga of, if Onaga knew that Blaze was going to be this powerful, why would Onaga ever go after Shao Kahn? Why wouldn't Onaga just go after Blaze or meet Taven at the battle between him and Onaga, and then Onaga can end up, defeating Tagon, defeating either Taven or Dagon, and then basically honestly, it could have easily been Onaga having Blaze's powers, because Onaga, he's a Dragon King. If he had, if he had summoned his Dragon King army, which is, pretty much like the most powerful army, held by him, Onaga could have easily taken over, all of Outworld, and he could have taken everybody out, throughout the Armageddon War. So Onaga, he could have easily murdered everybody, on the battlefield, but I don't think that was his intentions, because he was coming back from deception. But again, I don't understand why he was even in the story to begin with, because Shijinko ended up killing him. So if anything, probably Quan Chi or some other sorcerer like Shang Tsung probably brought him back to life. But it could have been something of which Onaga, he came back due to some spell that somebody ended up using on him, and then boom, he can be brought back to life. Because Mortal Kombat is like Dragon Ball Z. If somebody dies off, they can easily come back through sorcery, and you can use some sort of necromancy to bring back the character. And I mean, there's plenty of ways to bring back dead characters in Mortal Kombat, but in terms of how this game was going down, it was quite shocking to see the development of Onaga coming into the storyline at the start of Armageddon. But either way, it's cool. Armageddon was basically supposed to promote Taven and Dagon along with Shao Kahn, Raiden. And then Liu Kang, he made a cameo-like appearance in the cinematic where he uses, his chain blades to stab Shang Tsung's shoulders, so therefore he doesn't get to Blaze. But I guess to fully finish the question about what happened to Taven at Mortal Kombat Armageddon, is he alive? I would say yes, primarily due to the fact that after Taven defeated Blaze, the energy of Blaze ended up the aura ended up spreading to all the other combatants at the time of Armageddon being started, and therefore everybody ended up fighting each other. Everybody was very strong, they had super abilities, and they were able to do what they wanted to do. But then, after the aftermath was occurred, I want to say, once Taven defeated Blaze, Taven ended up saying in his own ending that he was going to, find more solutions to fix Armageddon, because after defeating Blaze, Armageddon was not defeated. It wasn't complete, so the quest was still going. So if anything, my theory of what ended up happening in the story mode was that I felt like Taven ended up going out of his way to go find Dagon after he defeated him, or he went to the Elder Gods to look for answers. Because it would make sense if you're Taven, why would you want to stay after the war was over? And you've already defeated Blaze, so it's you either waiting for Raiden to come up and see you would not be a good idea, because Raiden would try to fight Taven, and then, let's just say Shao Kahn, he comes late into the fight, and therefore it makes perfect sense. So I would say, in my mind, it would make sense for Taven to leave the scene, and Shao Kahn, he ends up coming back, to the aftermath late into the fight. So it's like he pretty much comes back, and then he sees Raiden, and then he's like, oh, I see that you are here, Raiden, so now it's time for you to die, blah blah blah. And then Raiden would, say the same exact thing, I'm here, to finish you, blah blah blah. And I mean, that's how Shao Kahn ended up getting all these powers, because I want to say the Blaze aura ended up making him more powerful. So if anything, that's a good theory to use by Shao Kahn. Why would Taven stay there after defeating Blaze? Because it wasn't Shao Kahn defeating Blaze. He never made any mention that Blaze's energy was given, how should I say? Shao Kahn made references to Blaze to say that the power of Blaze made him stronger, blah blah blah. But it was more so the energy that Taven's, how should I say, aura from Blaze ended up being more powerful in the event, of the situation. So pretty much in terms of how it went down is that Taven ended up being, how should I say, powerful with Blaze's energy. Hold on, give me 1 second. Alright, I'm back. So yeah, to finalize what I'm trying to say is that Taven could have easily made this path a lot better for himself by having to just have the energy of Blaze, and then pretty much he could have done two things. One, I believe that he ended up getting the power, makes himself more powerful, and therefore he could have ended up fighting Raiden, and then he ended up maybe fleeing the scene after that, and then Shao Kahn shows up, and then he's like, okay, I'm not in it to be fighting blah 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 any of you, and then I'm leaving. So that would make perfect sense if you're Taven, but I think that the better theory is that Taven just ended up fleeing the scene so he could find Dagon, because Dagon, he ended up retreating after, the battle between him and Dagon was finished, or him and Taven were done. So I think that makes perfect sense if you're Taven. Why would you want to stay after you defeated Blaze and the quest isn't done? So if anything, Taven has to go after Dagon, and he has to demand answers from him to find out the real truth about what's needed to be done, for the story, quests to be done. So I truly believe that Shao Kahn was thinking he was victorious simply because the aftermath that Taven had caused with Armageddon after defeating Blaze made everybody stronger, and therefore everybody killed each other off, or most of everyone killed each other off, and therefore Shao Kahn ended up being the victor simply because Taven's victory over Blaze gave him that power for him to be victorious. So I think that makes perfect sense. Shao Kahn would have never been powerful to that level to even beat Onaga, to say the least, if he had not gotten the aura from Taven's victory from Blaze to make him powerful. So I think that's the misconception that a lot of, MK story weirdo nerds, like to argue about, to say that, oh, Shao Kahn ended up killing him, when he showed up, Because it's like, why would Taven want to fight Shao Kahn? I mean, if anything, Taven's way stronger than Shao Kahn, because one, his armor makes him stronger, and two, the weapons that were used for him to kill Blaze, you don't think he would do that up against Shao Kahn? And then on top of that, he has the Elder Gods behind him, so it's like, if anything, I mean, Taven's a very strong character, and not a lot of people like to give him credit, but I will say Taven's a very huge threat with what he does, and it's like, that's something that you have to give credit for, because not a lot of characters are able to have all that energy and control the amount of, versatility that they carry. So the truth is that I think Taven ended up living, and it's not like he doesn't really die anyway, because it's like he's a god. So it's like once he reaches full godhood, it's like he's basically somewhat like immortal, unless his soul gets taken away, and then I guess he could die. But I mean, just to make the storyline a lot easier to understand, Taven wouldn't need to be sitting there trying to think about what the next plan would be if it were to be a situation of, okay, I defeated Blaze, now I need to find answers, now it's time to find the best solution to basically fix up Armageddon, in which Armageddon would have just been worse from the beginning, because it's like Raiden ended up fighting Shao Kahn, he ended up getting beat up badly. So I would say my conclusion to this would just be like Shao Kahn ended up beating up Raiden bad, in which he could have easily killed him, but the energy from Taven's aura from his victory over Blaze made him stronger for the time being, and it was a temporary buff to the level of which you don't know how much of that energy is going to corrupt somebody, where their abilities were never going to basically remain basically stable, because the truth about Blaze's aura is that it's a curse in disguise to think that it's going to help you. So what happens is that it makes people stronger, but it also reverts their abilities to make them more vulnerable. So what that means is that a character like Shao Kahn has all the abilities and the training that he has gotten from his massive power of him being strong, but it can very well alter him, because remind you, I'll even use Shao Kahn's ending where he quote unquote beat Blaze, and the aura that he got from Blaze made his abilities get corrupted, so therefore he wasn't able to control the power that Blaze was giving him. So in my theory, I don't think Blaze made everybody powerful from Taven's victory that he had over him. So it would make perfect sense that Blaze's victory for Taven did not make anything better. So if anything, everybody has a lot of advantages and disadvantages with fighting certain characters. So maybe every character ended up going to a level of which everything wasn't, properly prioritized at the event of the situation. So I would say Shao Kahn ended up getting the better of Raiden, because Raiden wasn't able to use his abilities to his highest maximum. So I think if anything, Shao Kahn was only able to do what he needed to do, because Blaze's energy gave him the better advantages for him to be victorious. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of interesting theories, but in terms of Taven's life being potentially killed by Shao Kahn, it wouldn't make sense, because Taven just ended up beating Blaze, and therefore Shao Kahn defeating Blaze wouldn't make sense, because he came in late at the at the time of the situation of Armageddon. So it's like, if you defeated Blaze as Taven, why would Shao Kahn ever have the means to kill Taven off, knowing that Taven, he's basically super duper strong. So it's like Shao Kahn cannot have, Shao Kahn couldn't have killed him unless there was some stipulation put in place where he had the means to kill Taven, simply because he got more, more powerful after Taven's energy was aured to him through Blaze. So if that energy that he got from defeating Blaze made Shao Kahn powerful, it would it would make sense. But the truth is that the person who defeats Blaze ends up becoming stronger. So it's really dependent off of how the character reacts to the energy. Therefore, that would make perfect sense. And I don't think Shao Kahn at that time frame wouldn't have realized, because it's the truth is he's not at any capacity to even know that he's actually stronger than Taven. So it's if he didn't say anything about Taven actually fighting him at the very end of Armageddon after Taven had defeated Blaze, and therefore Shao Kahn ended up fighting him and then killed him, then Shao Kahn would have said that in Mortal Kombat 9, or he would have said that in Mortal Kombat 11, or even MK1, because it's that makes perfect sense. Shao Kahn would have said, oh, I see that another person of me from a different timeline killed a combatant by the name of Taven. Let's just say if he had a intro dialogue with another Shao Kahn, he would have said that to the other General Shao to say, I'm from the past, and I wanted to tell you that I fought a guy by the name of Taven, and I ended up killing him to become the most powerful blah 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 combatant with Blaze's energy. And that Shao Kahn would have been oh, do tell, blah blah blah, that is quite interesting that I was actually that that powerful. So I mean, that makes perfect sense. If you're Shao Kahn, you would harp over that victory to say that I am by far the most powerful character in the world. And that is very well true, because Shao Kahn had the ability to basically take out Blaze, but the truth was that Onaga ended up capturing him. So it's why would Shao Kahn ever think to be super duper powerful from Taven's energy from his armor being aured through Blaze's energy after he defeated Blaze? And it's okay, Shao Kahn gets powerful when Onaga took him mountains away to capture him. So Shao Kahn ended up killing Onaga, and I would say Onaga did not ever come back, from Shao Kahn's, victory over him. So it's Onaga basically got bodied by Shao Kahn. So what does Shao Kahn do after that? He just comes to the scene pretty much when he's further away from the, from the time frame of the Armageddon, sequence. So, once Blaze was being formed, it was Blaze was gonna fight Taven, because Taven was right there with Dagon. He beat Dagon. And then Taven ends up, talking to Blaze, where Blaze told him, no, me and you have to fight each other, because of the fate will be determined for the realms, by us, fighting each other. So my theory is that Taven is the victor, and Taven is to be the champion of Mortal Kombat, because it's the Elder Gods, basically determined that it was going to be the fight of Taven or Dagon, defeating Blaze, which, that's what the prophecy was to be shown through some part of the story where Taven went to some tomb, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe Sektor was following him, and he was going over to some secret temple where his dad had certain artifacts put in place where him and Dagon were supposed to defeat Blaze, together, and therefore they were supposed to be powerful enough to basically defeat him because of the weapons that Argus put down and for them, were supposed to be powerful for them to be the victors against Blaze. But it was going to be either Taven or Dagon, so it was really dependent off of who was going to be basically the more skilled combatant to win. But I think if anything, both of them winning up against Blaze doesn't really matter, because it's they would have been extremely powerful as full-blown gods. and therefore the energy that they'd gotten from Blaze would have just made them both powerful, combatants from the time frame of them defeating Blaze. So Armageddon would have been more, it would have been more corrupted with Taven and Dagon having to figure out what was going to happen. But let's just say if Tagon, like if Dagon wasn't evil, and he was just like a good person like Taven, it would have just been Shao Kahn wanting to take out either Taven Taven or Dagon. So I think if anything, Dagon losing to Taven was a good idea in the story, because it's like Dagon, he was born prematurely, so it's like he decided to go out of his way to be evil because he was corrupted by the intense, I guess corruption of being power hungry, of wanting to kill off Argus and Delia, that being, the father and mother for Taven and Dagon. So once Dagon got power hungry, he ended up corrupting the dragons that raised them, that being Orin and Karl. So leading up to that point, that's where, Taven needed to make those moves to say, I need to stop my brother, because my brother is going to do the same thing what Shao Kahn was trying to do to everybody else, which he was going to basically be a super tyrannical, megalomaniac warlord character. And Dagon wanted to kill off Taven because he didn't want Taven to quote unquote be the victor, up against Blaze, which, what the crazy thing about it was that Dagon I don't even know. I think Dagon needed to kill Taven if he wanted to be more powerful, because if he had taken his armor and then he had fought Blaze with that armor, that would make sense. But the thing is like Dagon probably could have defeated Blaze himself, but let's just say if Blaze was way too powerful and Dagon needed Taven's help, then therefore him and Taven would have had to work together to defeat Blaze, because of what the prophecy was to be written that way, based off of what Argus's writings were telling Taven from the previous story missions that Taven was in to find the artifacts, to see what everything was being, personified from the situation. That would make perfect sense. So yeah, I don't think Taven ended up dying. I think Taven went out of his way to escape Armageddon, and he was trying to find his brother Dagon, because Dagon was nowhere to be seen after he ended up defeating him. So I would say my conclusion is that Shao Kahn ended up getting the better of everybody in the tournament, at Armageddon, after he defeated Blaze. So once Blaze was, Shao Kahn ended up getting the better of everybody in Armageddon after he killed Onaga, and then once he came back to the scene, Onaga ended up being, Onaga ended up getting killed, and then Shao Kahn went to the scene to figure out what everything was going on at the leading point of Armageddon about to be done. But Raiden was there, and I think Liu Kang could have been there. So I want to say Liu Kang probably ended up getting killed by Shao Kahn, and Shao Kahn ended up killing, I'd probably say Quan Chi and Shang Tsung. That would make perfect sense. And then I'd say for Raiden, him and Raiden fought each other to the death, and he did what he had to do. And I would also add in Shijinko too, because Shijinko, he's very, very powerful himself too. So I mean, Shao Kahn pretty much won because Taven didn't, have any final battle with Shao Kahn that was ever to be referenced in the next, up and coming Mortal Kombat games that were being produced. So I believe Taven is alive. I don't think Shao Kahn ended up killing Taven, because if he had killed Taven, he would have said that already by now, and that would have been, that would have been shown in Mortal Kombat 9 by Shao Kahn saying yes, I killed Taven, and I am blah blah blah, but the most powerful, powerful character ever. So yeah, I would say Shao Kahn did what he needed to do at the time of the situation, because he was able to be victorious in the event of having the power of Blaze being aured to him through Taven's armor. So if anything, Taven could have defeated Shao Kahn with his own weapons that he had, and also he had, you know, a lot more skill coming into, you know, defeating Blaze. So it's like, I mean, I think Shao Kahn literally, like, you know, would have been, you know, a much easier target for Taven, and a lot easier like a matchup. So I don't think Taven would have even lost to Shao Kahn, because Shao Kahn at this, you know, at that time frame of, like, you know, of the battle, you know, wasn't going to be any more powerful compared to what he had to do with Onaga. So it's like, I don't think Taven would have had any issues with Shao Kahn. It just would have been more like, what would the aura of Blaze would have turned Taven into? Would have, like, him, like, Taven defeating Shao Kahn would be good, but let's just say that the souls that he got from Shao Kahn ended up making Taven a lot stronger, but he ended up being more corrupted. Does that make Taven into, like, the new villain, or does Taven end up becoming, you know, like, the ultra super skilled warrior that turns him into, like, a much stronger character? So yeah, I think Taven is alive. I think in the future Mortal Kombat games, we're going to see what's going on with Taven. And I would like to see Taven and Dagon come back to the story mode, along with, I'd probably say, you know, Hotaru, Fujin, Argus, and Delia. They need to come to the story. Definitely bring back Shujinko. I think Mortal Kombat definitely needs Shujinko back, but I mean, I definitely like to see, like, the very first Mortal Kombat, you know, character roster, you know, players come to the game, like King Gorbak, let the Great Kung Lao, King Jared. I think all those characters need to get their shine. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where the future of Mortal Kombat will go for the story, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where things are going to go. So alright, I'll see you guys. Hope you guys enjoy my video, and until next time, and yeah, thank you very much. Alright.